Alright, hello everyone, Amanda here with Eclectic Scribbles. I'm back to you today with a brand new video. Today's video is going to be a review of the new Scribbles That Matter Pro version in the 160 GSM no bleed paper. So there has been some talk recently about how Scribbles That Matter paper has gone downhill and doesn't hold water and ink the way that it used to, and I've got a couple of previous journals here that are really dirty but they have some pen tests in it that will show that how the paper used to look. And then I have the most recent version of a Scribbles That Matter book that is not the 160 GSM, that is just a regular pro version. So we're going to see how this stacks up. Now I'm going to apologize up front that I've already set up this pen test page, but the audio in the first take sort of got away from me. I don't know what happened to it. It's corrupted. So while the stuff is already printed on the page inside, I will time-lapse you through the actual pen test itself and we'll look at the results again. Alright, so I have got these three out of the way real quick, and I do need to make one note because I did have to speak with Scribbles That Matter on this particular matter. When this came wrapped, it said 115 GSM on the back, and I wanted to make sure before I opened it that that was not the case, because I didn't want to use a perfectly good journal that could go to someone else if it wasn't the correct one that I ordered. They said no, as long as you order it from the Amazon site, then all of them are the new 160 GSM. It just has an old sleeve on it. So if you have gotten one and you're worried about that, then make that little note. So it says 115 GSM glide paper, but it is the 160 GSM paper. So for those of you who are not familiar with Scribbles That Matter, I am going to run through the features of this journal, and I do have a more in-depth look at the previous Scribbles That Matter in comparison to the Leuchtturm on the channel as well, which I will link in the cards and in the description somewhere. So that being said, again, this is the Pro version, 160 GSM. It has got the 2 ribbon bookmarks. This is the lavender. It has got the elastic enclosure, and it has got the pin loop on it. Inside, different from the previous versions, you're going to find bright white paper in the 160 GSM journal, and this front page is a super thick sort of cardstock that says the following scribbles belong to, has a little bitty dot grid here, and then it says date journal started and date journal ended. Alright, page 1 starts with the key, and then you're going to have 3 pages of index following that. And because I've already filmed this once, I do already know these things. So page 5 is where your actual dot grid starts, and it goes all the way back to page 157, which is your pen test page. And you'll see that this is the page that I have already written, and we'll time lapse you through in just a moment. You've got 158 as the mindfulness page, and this is another piece of thick cardstock, and it's got some lines here. Just a little final thought at the end of your journal. A couple of other minor things to note are your pocket in the back, which is common for most bound journals. And you have got on this Scribbles That Matter journal a little plus sign in the very center dot of the page, and you have got little dash marks on the center dots horizontally and vertically on all 4 sides of each page to just give you a quick reference as to where the middle is. That is also the case, I believe, in my latest journal that is not the 160 GSM. Yes, that is the case. The little plus sign is there, and there are the little dash marks. There are 213 numbered pages in this journal, but this is the thinner paper. I believe this is the 115 GSM. It used to be 120, and this paper is also a cream color as per usual with Scribbles That Matter, whereas this paper is bright white. Another thing that I want to note is this is the glide paper. The quote-unquote glide paper. And so this feels like it has some kind of coating on the paper, where this page is still smooth, but it doesn't feel coated in any way. So there's a slight textural difference between the cream colored paper and the white colored paper that you may want to note. Alright, so that we'll get out of the way, and we're going to jump into the actual pen test itself. So I have chosen several pens, which you will see, to do the pen test with. So we've got a Lamy ink pen, we have got Kelly Creates pens in the small brush tip and the Dream pen, we've got a Faber-Castell artist brush pen, and we have got this little mark is the Faber-Castell. It was marked 5 times in a row, one after the other. We have got some aqua brush and a black brush pen, Tombow Artist Loft brush pens, the soft tip Tombow Fudenosuke, a palette fine liner, Sharpie Ultrafine, Sharpie Fine Point, a fountain pen. This is the Jane Davenport fountain pen, a Copic marker just for fun, and then we have got some watercolor down here. So I'm going to time lapse you through me actually setting up this page really quickly so that you can see me writing all of them on there, and then we will come back, and that is when we will flip this over and see the results. Okay, so now you have seen me set this page up. Well, not really set it up, but mark all of this stuff down on the page. So let's see how it turned out. Now, this is dry now, so we'll be able to see really well how the water held up and how it acts once it is dry on the other side of the page. I will say that there is just a slight bit of actual shedding of the page when you get into the blending area here for these two, and once the water starts to dry, the line becomes quite hard to move. You can't pick up the paint and move it again, so that's why you're going to get some of these hard edges with the water. It's not going to move once it's down, so that is something that if you use watercolor you're going to want to note. But other than the light shedding, there was no real other issue here. Just going to have to make sure that you do it while this watercolor is wet. The watercolors that I used here are all Daniel Smith watercolors, just for reference, not that it makes any difference. And I did lay down a fair bit of water with this green side just to check. Alright, so here we go, flipping it over. There is barely any kind of buckling here, so you can really not tell at all once the page is dry that there is water on the other side. There is just the slightest, and I don't even know how well the camera will pick it up, buckling of the page, but once it's written on, you probably will never know it. The Copic is, like I said, just for fun. It is an alcohol marker. It is going to bleed through everything. That is not marker paper. And I will have to say that this Copic bleed through is less than both my journal that's in production now and the Archer and Olive that I have been using. So nothing else is showing through. The Sharpie fine point barely ghosted, but it's a Sharpie, so it's going to. But other than that, you cannot see anything on the back side of this page, and you have to strain to see the Sharpie. So this paper is holding up really, really well. And the actual ink sits on the paper nicely. There's not a whole lot of bleed issues. Like I said, I went over this 5 times and then swiped down, and there is barely any smearing on that. So you'll have to do your own smear test with your kinds of pens, especially fountain pens. But I have to say, this is really, really great paper, and I love the fact that they did the bright white instead of the cream, because that was another thing that had me move over to my Archer and Olive, was the fact that it was bright white paper and not cream colored. So that being said, this, like, it really, really held up. And just for those of you who are new to Scribbles That Matter, I'm going to show you some of the pen tests in prior versions. And I will say that this 160 GSM no bleed version is available in both the Iconic, which is the one with the icons all over the front, and it is also available in the Pro colors as well. So just the colors themselves will vary from version to version, and according to whatever stock that they have. So here are a few things that bled through. These are Tombos, and this bled through. This is water bleeding through. On the back of this page, we've got some metallic pens. They're bleeding through with a little bit of water. Some blending of Tombos that ghosts really, really badly. And I believe there was a couple of other things you can see, just slightest bit of water even bled through on something like this. So there was a time where the paper sort of did go downhill and didn't even hold the feud pens well without bleeding. All of the micron and all of the black in this journal is micron, and you can see how much the paper actually has ghosted before. This is ghosting, not bleeding, so it's not a major issue, but something to be noted in comparison to the fact that this has nothing behind it. And this was an even earlier version. We've got bleed through on all of these things here, ghosting on all of these, and there are a few tests in this book that demonstrate how poorly it held up before. So they're bleed through, especially when trying to blend, it would bleed through, and the slightest bit of water would start to come through as well. So those were all reasons why I moved away from these journals in the first place. Now, that being said, this journal has a few less pages. It is numbered to 158, but only, well, 4 or 5 of the pages that are numbered have things on them already, so aren't completely blank pages. And because this is thicker paper, this is a thicker journal. So these two up against each other is not a huge difference in anyone with an Archer and Olive journal or something with similar GSM will find that it is exactly the same size as one of those. So I am going to stack this up also against my journals that are in production now and the Archer and Olive, the newest iteration of Archer and Olive books, and you can see that they are all exactly the same. All 3 of these books have 160 GSM paper in it. All of these books have bright white paper in it, so the paper quality in these 3 books is going to be pretty much the same with minimal variations. But they are all technically still A5 journals. That is what you're going to find with that. That is going to wrap up today's video. I want to thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a big thumbs up if you found it at all helpful. If you have another journal you would like for me to review, or something that claims to be no bleed, let me know down in the comments. And let me know which journal you are currently using. I'm about to move into a new journal come July, so I'm really excited to get started with a new journal. All right, I will see you next time, everybody. Thank you again so much for watching. Bye. Bye to Daryl and bye to Brianna, my little friends.